Egyptian culture took shape around a series of religious temples built in carefully chosen sites along the Nile. For the Egyptian priests, all forms in the universe grow outwards and need a container to protect their development. The temples were the receptacles that allowed the development of their civilization. Each temple manifested a different kind of understanding of the universe, a different fundamental principle, and was used to communicate it to their people to produce an evolution of consciousness. Each temple played the role of a different organ in the country's body with a different function, devoted to teaching and exploring a different religious topic. In that way, they understood the houses of God. For thousands of years, the frontiers of the kingdom were respected by all empires of Asia. The pharaohs of Egypt, who were initiated by the priests of the Eye of Horus, never wanted to conquer other territories, and the country was a haven of peace. The end of the empire began with the disappearance of their highest priests in the Red Sea crossing while in the pursuit of Moses. He was one of their last high initiates. The empire ended in the chaos, the destruction of their temples, and the extermination caused by the Persian Cambyses II. When Ciro died, the king of the largest kingdom of Asia, who maintained a peaceful and respectful relationship with Egypt, his son, Cambyses II, rose to the command of the most powerful army at the time. A cruel and brutal tyrant who hated the wisdom, stability, and power of the pharaohs was obsessed with proving that his gods were more powerful. He invaded Egypt in the year 525 BC. He murdered Psammethicus III, the last pharaoh legitimately born in these lands, and almost all the priests of the school of mysteries of the Eye of Horus. The temples were destroyed, and the papyrus with stored wisdom of many generations were burnt. The knowledge was lost in the darkness, and the powerful Egyptian wisdom disappeared with their high priests. Cambyses II established a ruthless oppression that lasted 200 years, until the arrival in the year 332 BC of Alexander the Great, who was received as a savior by the Egyptians. Alexander ordered the reconstruction of the temples, and after his death, Ptolemus I, one of his generals, began the Ptolemaic dynasties that reigned for almost 300 years. The temple devoted to Hathor, originally built in DENDERAH in the year 5400 BC, was reconstructed by the Macedonian kings as a pious method to make their power legitimate. In one of the subterranean crypts, hieroglyphics were found that demonstrate that it was reconstructed exactly following the ancient plans and designs left by the wise priest Imhotep. The religious complex of DENDERAH is located on the 26 degrees north latitude. An ancient road that leads to the Red Sea began there. A little to the south, thousands of years after the foundation of the temple, Thebes, the capital of the new kingdom, was built. A ceremony called Put-Ser took place on a starry evening of a summer solstice at the dawn of their civilization, in an area over the Nile, carefully chosen because of its direct relationship to certain stars. The Pharaoh of Egypt and the supreme priest of the mystery school of the Eye of Horus, surrounded by all their people, located a group of stars over the north pole of the planet. They called it the constellation of Tuaret, and its symbol was a red hippopotamus mother. In our times, we call the same group of stars Draconis, and its symbol is a dragon serpent. most brilliant of all was Alpha Draconis, the star that in that era was located exactly over the axis of the planet, and that 4,320 years after was replaced by Polaris, the one which currently guides our navigators. The movement of the solar system in its revolution around the center of the galaxy determines that during that cycle of 25,920 years, 6 different stars would shine over the pole. The star over the pole represented the fundamental motherly force in the sky, the generator of the substance that allowed the development of life in the universe, the feminine principle called Hathor, to which this temple was consecrated. The pharaoh and the supreme priest oriented a line between 2 stakes towards Alpha Draconis. The priestess, with a gold mallet, nailed the stakes lining up the direction of the temple's axis. They then set the 4 cornerstones to begin the protective wall of the complex, a very high wall to fence out the enemies of the life they wished would be there forever. The principal door was located northward, the last of a series of aligned doors that, departing from the Sancta Sanctorum of Hathor's temple, framed the sky segment where Alpha Draconis appeared, making it easy to find it and systematically register its movements during the night. That same night, but facing west, they located another star at 90 degrees to the previous one. They called it Sirius, and was the symbol of Isis in the sky. In her honor, they built a second temple with its axis and the second door in the wall of the complex aligned in the star's direction. The door of the temple of Isis framed the sector of the sky where Sirius rose, with the sun trailing her, and appeared on each 21st day of June, day of the summer solstice. The temple grew inside the high walls, while the priest recorded the movement of the stars, studied the processes impelled by their energies, and carved on its walls the conclusions on that sacred topic. Sirius, the symbol of Isis, was called the dog star because it follows the Orion constellation, the impersonation of Osiris in the sky. After being hidden for 120 days, it reappeared over the horizon, marking the moment when the Nile waters begin to overflow. It was then visible for 40 days, the same times that the floods lasted. Because of this synchronicity, Cyrus became very important and was used to divide the year in 3 periods called tetramens, determined by the flood of the Nile. The New Year's festivities began when the Nile overflowed and Sirius reappeared in the sky. Once the star disappeared, the river recovered its normal levels. The calendar and the synchronization of Egyptian life with the sun and the stars was so important that the pharaoh, upon assuming his high role, had to swear never to change the dates of the calendar. However, the day Sirius reappeared in the sky depended on the latitude of the temple in which it was awaited, since in the southern Elephantine it was seen 7 days before than in Bubastis to the north. The priests also used the sun as a clock to help determine the duration of the year, since the summer solstice happened at the same time of the reappearance of Sirius. In DENDERAH, on the horizon, framed by the doors of the temple of Isis, the sun appeared after the rising of Sirius. At dawn, the day of the summer solstice, Sirius and the sun signaled like a cosmic clock the beginning of the Egyptian New Year. In a ceremony in the attic of this temple, the new fire for all the country was lit.